Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for attending this important event. And I want to thank the press for being here. Unless you've been living under a rock, you probably share the frustration many Oklahomans and Americans have. We're told that the ballot box gives us power. But in practice, the people we elect rarely have the ability to truly represent us. I know this firsthand because I served 18 years in the legislature. 12 under Democratic majority, and another 6 later under Republican majority. What I learned is very sobering. Some issues never get addressed, no matter who is in charge, no matter what party is in charge, unless the people demand it. Why is that? Because the legislative power in Oklahoma is not in the hands of elected representatives and senators. It's concentrated in the hands of House and Senate leadership and special interest groups and large donors. Here's the reality. Your representative and senator cannot fully represent you. The Speaker and Pro Tem appoint and control every committee chair, every committee vice chair, the membership of every committee, and they assign every bill to a committee of their choice. They can block proposed legislation from even getting a hearing or a vote. They decide in secret which bills actually live or die, which bills get heard, with the influence of special interest and those large donors. To be heard, representatives must trade favors with leadership. Those who refuse to compromise their principles see their bills and your concerns buried. You might be thinking, wait, no way, this can't be true, but it is true. The system is designed and has evolved to actually give an illusion of representation, while the real decisions behind closed doors are taking place. The rules are actually rigged against those that get elected and the people that elect them. There is a famous quote that says, "Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely." That is the problem we are confronting today and with this statewide petition drive. The influence of power and money. Representative government, also referred to in our times as democracy, cannot function when representatives are denied the ability to represent their people who elect them. Oklahoma's own history proves this. Governor Charles Haskell, who was called the father of Oklahoma and the architect of our Constitution, described the Constitutional Convention as a model of openness. Here's what he said, quote, "You may be heard in an open, public, and candid manner, but secret lobbying, no, never." Open government was meant to be a cornerstone of our state. Over time, however, concentrated power and secrecy have replaced openness with politics as usual. Backroom deals, special interest, and donor influence. Too few in control of too much. The solution is simple. Restore representative government. We propose a law that guarantees each legislature has the right to have a minimum number of bills heard in committee and voted on by the full body. Denying this right would carry strict penalties. As one framer of our Constitution wisely said, "In matters of power, let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down by the chains of the Constitution." This is not just about process, it's about fairness and justice and equality in returning government to the people it was designed to serve. The problems we face are violations of our constitutional rights, in particular, the First Amendment, free speech, and also in that First Amendment, it talks about redress government. You can either have that ability or you do not. It's nothing in between, and we've got to stop this process. I'd like to turn it over now to our Executive Director, Dwayne Crumbaker, who's going to talk about how we're going to accomplish this.
Thank you, Charles. I want to start first by saying that this website that we've created, opengovernmentok.com, is designed to streamline the initiative petition process across the state of Oklahoma. And when you go and register on our website, you will be able to actually pledge to sign the initiative petition in advance before we actually get to the 90-day signature collection period. That will make the process of collecting signatures across the state much easier. It basically turns it into a logistical problem instead of trying to identify and persuade people to sign the petition during the signature collection period. So if you can actually go to the website and register, that will help us to get the signatures that we need in order to actually push this initiative forward.
Okay. All right, and at this time, we'd be happy to take any questions. Yes.
Legislature recently passed Bill 1027 addressing some of these issues. Is that going to help or hurt you?
Well, that bill is now being challenged and is in the Supreme Court. Everybody's waiting for their response. But what it did is it created some additional authority, gave additional authority to the Secretary of State's office, and also dictated how many votes, how many signatures you have to get from every single county based on a population formula. And so we'll see what the Supreme Court has to say about that. But there's another bill that was passed the year before in 2024 that also put 2 additional waiting periods on the front end and back end of the actual signature gathering process. We're having to deal with those, and it's probably also unconstitutional in my opinion, but the Supreme Court hasn't been asked about that issue yet. But what it really represents is that there are certain legislators and others that do not like the citizens' right to carry out this petition, a petition like this, whether it's statewide or a county effort, which happens in Oklahoma somewhat frequently from time to time and has for many, many decades. Fortunately, we have a constitutional right to do this, but there are public officials and others that won't come out really publicly and say this, but they are against this. They'd like to get rid of this law if they can. And they're the ones that are passing these bills to make it more difficult for the citizens to actually hold the legislature and other levels of our government accountable for what they do or don't do. And I might add to that, that if we didn't have this law guaranteed to us in the Oklahoma Constitution, people need to think about, we would not have term limits. People wanted term limits in this state for a very long time, but the legislature would not address it. They wouldn't allow it, a bill to go forward that would address that. The people finally had enough. They circulated their own petition to put a proposed law forward, and now we have term limits. A really big one was many years before that, when I was in the legislature the first time. Taxation was a big problem, continuing tax increases. People were fed up until a group of people got together, passed a law that required a 75% vote in the legislature before a tax increase could be passed in the legislature. That's why we haven't had big tax increases over the years. We would not have those. There's also some other ones that we could talk about. Right to work. You know, the legislature wouldn't pass laws to either pass right to work or move in that direction. So what did the people do? They got together and said, well, we can do this ourselves. So I would also say, when I've been on programs talking about this issue that were more of a national or regional nature, some of those programs that I've been on, their podcast, one I'm thinking about in particular, has a lot of state legislators from various states that attend that podcast regularly. And they had me on as a speaker, and as I was talking to them about us having this law in Oklahoma and that we were going to use it, a lot of them spoke out and said, gosh, you know, we know you guys have that law there, and we wish we had it in our state. We can't do this. We have to take whatever the legislature crams down our throats. And that's how they said that. So we're very fortunate we have it. We need to use it. We need to use it responsibly, and we need to educate people instead of take their power away from them.
One follow-up question. I'm not sure I understand exactly what the website does. How's the website going to help you?
Well, you know, you have to go collect signatures on a petition, on a piece of paper. That's the way you actually have to bring this about. What we've been able to do is someone designed our site for us in a way where people can go from their home or their telephone and just go to the website and pledge to sign the petition, as Dwayne just talked about, when the signature gathering period starts. You can go to the website, press the pledge to sign the petition button, go and register and fill that form out. it is the same data we have to collect on the hard copy signature that we'll have to collect later. And what that does for us is it lets us be more efficient, work quickly, and less expensively in terms of man hours and money. So we can get this accomplished. If people will do that, it'll help us tremendously.
I want to I want to add that it's not necessary to wait until the signature collection period starts. It's actually more helpful if you actually go to the website and register sooner rather than later, so that we can identify people across the state who want to sign the petition before the signature collection period actually arrives.
What's the address of that website?
opengovernmentok.com.
And I might add, just for more clarity, because everybody's kind of confused about this, or it's new to them, I should say. People are used to, when somebody files a petition like we are doing this today, the old way, the typical way, was the signature gathering period would start then or within a couple of weeks or so. But now they've passed these laws that are believed to be unconstitutional, waiting for the Supreme Court to chime in on some of them. But by putting these two 90-day periods, these additional 90-day waiting periods into the process, they put one on the front end, a 90-day waiting period, and one on the back end, another 90-day waiting period, in addition to the 90-day period in which you actually gather the signatures. So we're filing today, and sometime in the next few days or week, the clock will start ticking for the first 90-day waiting period to see if somebody wants to challenge anything about this. Then when that's run its course, then the 90-day period starts in which we actually have to go gather the signatures, or that we can gather signatures. We will use that 90 days to then get the signatures, hard copy, so that we can then turn them into the Secretary of State. When that 90-day period is gone, gathering the signatures, then another 90-day period starts of challenge, waiting to see if somebody wants to challenge the signatures or other aspects of this. So we've had some of our legislators that are currently in office and some that are no longer there that passed these laws in the last couple of years, and it clearly makes it more difficult for people to do this. They're trying to stop the process.
So on that vein, you have this time period. So the reason that you have people register is so that you can then go get the hard copy. Basically, how many signatures do you need?
Well, the law requires about 173,000 to collect. We're going to shoot for about 190 or 200,000. But I'm glad you asked that question, because again, we're at an advantage kind of that we have 90 days now to inform people and ask them to go to the website. You can do that now. You don't have to wait for the 90-day signature gathering period to go to the website. As a matter of fact, for it to work properly and really help in this process, we need people to go there now. And we need lots of people to go register on the website. You're going to be putting in information that you have to put on that sheet when you sign it. It's actually going to let us make this whole process a lot quicker, but we can't emphasize enough that we're asking the people in the state that are in favor of this, go to our website and pledge to sign the petition, or register, as some refer to it.
And what's the address of that website?
It's Open Government OK, Open Government OK for Oklahoma.com.
What's the petition that you filed today? What are you addressing today?
Well, today we're addressing this practice of just arbitrarily denying bills to even have a hearing. I mean, there's a recently elected member that beat an incumbent, one of the members that's in the leadership team, and he was told that he's not going to have any of his bills heard, just as payback. And he's filed a number of really important bills, such as reforming this process that allows these wind turbines to be put up just all over the state, and other things like that, in addition to other really important issues that are not getting addressed. It makes me think of one more issue that I think everybody cares about and is interested in: property rights and property taxes. Those bills are held back. The full legislature, meaning all legislators around this state that represent the people in this state, need to be in that conversation, not have a question brought to them at the last minute and say, vote for this or not, something that somebody else has done behind closed doors. So they're not letting real important reform legislation take place, like reforming property taxes and education. Who's controlling that? They're making decisions behind closed doors about what bills affecting education are allowed to be brought forward. That should be an open discussion, like our first governor said many years ago. No secret lobbying. Everything's out in the open. People need to be represented, and they're not being represented anymore.
So there's people out there that might say that if you take the constraints off where the leadership is running things right now, there might just be a flood of bills that comes through the legislature. What do you guys have to say about that?
That is in my experience in 18 years, 2 different tenures, that's the argument that they always use. Oh, we can't do this because everybody's going to want to have their bill heard and we'll be flooded with bills. That is a false argument. It's not true. People that pay attention to the legislature know how much time is wasted up here doing nothing, sitting on our hands and getting paid while nothing happens. In addition to that, all kinds of groups and people that we recognize and let people give speeches and stuff, we can do that, but it shouldn't come in the place of doing the business that we were elected to do. So, and we're not doing that. We're not saying we've got to hear every bill. There are those that want every bill heard, and I think that's not a problem. But in this state question, it only states that every member has the right to have a minimum of 3 bills heard every year. And it also has penalties for these leadership members that violate that if they do in the future. It'll be a $10,000 fine if they violate that and deny someone their right to have a bill heard. And if they do it a second time, they could be expelled from the legislature.
I want to add that the language that we have in this petition does not limit the amount of bills that somebody can actually have heard. There's just a minimum that must be if they request it. So in other words, they're not limited to 3. If they request more than 3 and leadership grants it, that's fine. They can still have them heard, but they're not limited to 3. This is a minimum. It's not a maximum.
And that's a real important point, because there are some that feel very strongly about this fundamental principle that this power shouldn't even be allowed. And so, lost my train of thought there for a minute. So, we'll have to do some editing here. Go again.
So the petition that you are filed today states a minimum of 3 and then a penalty with it. So it goes forward, they hear it. What does it mean to hear? So it's not a direct democracy, but they hear it, and then the governor still has to sign it, right? It's not like we pass it and then there's no other process. So that's another thing about, it's not a direct democracy. It's just getting through that initial process where they don't want to hear it, so they have to hear it, and then it goes before the government. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, and another point of information that's real important for people to know is that there is some data that's been collected. So some questions might be, well, who's getting their bills heard? Show us the discrimination. There's a site that another independent party put together. The site name is Golden Rules OK, goldenrulesok.com. And what they did is they took 2024, our state Senate, they tracked every bill that was filed, every bill that was heard in committee and on the floor, who's the author of it and what their position is. You can go look at that for yourself and see how heavily weighted it is to leadership members. Got lots of their bills heard and passed with no problem. But the conservative members and others that some special interest group, large donors, or maybe just the leadership didn't like it for some reason, they would not even allow it to be heard. And it's terribly revealing and obscene to see it in print like that, in kind of in a mathematical way. They totally discriminate against the people that are really trying to make reforms. And that's the problem, is between the special interest groups, the large donors that have other interests besides just good government, they are skewing this. It's kind of a perverted form of of our representative form of government here in Oklahoma. If we didn't have a very conservative state, it would be much worse. But it is getting worse. And when I was there in the 80s and 90s and then in the 2000s again, it looks terrible the way I've seen things the last couple of years up here, because there are legislators that are afraid to go against the leadership. I mean, very afraid to do or say anything. So they've silenced them. So this is a very important reform that needs to take place.
So from what we're hearing from you, it sounds like you're not only trying to empower the people of the state, but also legislators. Can you elaborate more on that part?
That's exactly right. We have legislators, and I understand their concerns. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm not here to say they should do this or that or the other. I get what it's like to have to serve up here. I know what it's like. But they are afraid that if you speak out too much, like I have, and some others we could point to over the last few decades that were real vocal about this and other issues like it, they blackball you. You don't get anything done, you get treated terribly. They might even take away your office space and put you in a closet or something like that. That's actually happened in the past, things like that. So they are very fearful of speaking out, but they know how important this is, and they know how much it's important to the people.
So you say that other states don't have this petition ability. I know it's in the federal level because they put it in the Constitution. Who put it in the Constitution here, and why don't, I mean, how many states, other states have this?
Well, I know we in New Mexico have it in our Constitution. There are some other states that have it statutorily, or they did a few years ago when I researched this. So we're fortunate, and it reminds me of me being on a podcast a few months ago talking about this issue. It happened to be a podcast that was for state legislators. And so there were state legislators that are on that call regularly, hearing from other state legislators or former, like myself, about various issues. So I was on there to talk about this. So as I talked about it and told them we were going to eventually file for a state question to be circulated in our state, many of them spoke up on this podcast and said, yeah, we know you have that right in Oklahoma. We envy that right because we don't have it. We wish we had it, because all we can do is take whatever they dish out to us and cram down our throats. Any other questions?
You all have developed this website, and I imagine it's took a lot of work to put together. Is this just going to go away after this petition, or what's going to happen to all the information? What's it going to be used for? What is this organization doing?
Well, we'd like to be able to use it in the future again for other issues like this. There are those that want to have issues addressed, like, for example, campaign finance reform, we would call it. But when you think about dark money and all these flyers and TV ads and things like that fly out during an election cycle and make all these terrible claims, a lot of times, crazy claims, and you don't know who that group is. You don't know who they are. You don't really know who's behind that. And that's gotten worse. It gets worse and worse as time goes by when we don't address these things. So there are people that want to bring that kind of reform, and who doesn't want that? Quite a few of the people that reside up here on a regular basis, and the lobbyists and others like that, they don't want that reform because the money is the milk that keeps this thing going.
I just want to add that this website can be used for multiple different things. The goal here is to use it for initiative petitions, veto referendums, petitions for candidacy, and also to use it for grand jury petition drives.
And so people that might be being informed for the first time about this, our law allows not just a statewide petition to be circulated to propose a law before the people that they get to vote on when they go vote. Most of us are familiar with that. But it also allows a county petition to be circulated to question anything, actually. And so over the years, you've had petitions that are being brought because maybe somebody thinks the county sheriff is corrupt, maybe stealing money or something like that. DAs have been questioned, county commissioners, et cetera, et cetera. And so there are people that we've talked to just in the last few months in their counties. They've tried to circulate a petition, but these new laws that have been passed, the 90-day challenge periods that have been added to this, and some of the other ones are really hampering them, and they've had to They've been stopped in their tracks, I know in one case for sure, because of that, because they weren't quite aware of that and they didn't quite make the cut on the timing of those challenge periods. So it's a battle of leadership, establishment, politicians, and special interest groups and donors, and just the grassroots average taxpayer and voter.
So is this website something that if you have a group like that county situation that you're talking about, they approach you and work with the information, work with you guys, is that something that you all are open to, or what are you trying to do?
We're very open to that, and we've communicated that to a lot of people as we've gone around the state and talked about it. And I think it's a new concept, so it takes time to catch on and people to really figure it out, what we're doing. And people are so busy right now, and there's so much crazy stuff going in the political realm that it's hard to get everybody's attention. So we're working towards that. People are becoming more and more aware of this, and they're getting really angry about some of these things we're talking about today.
I just want to mention, for those that would be concerned about certain things that they don't necessarily agree with, a lot of these will be on a case-by-case basis. So petitions for candidacy, we're not going to vet those. I mean, those will just go through. But a lot of the other types of initiative petitions that people may put through, those will be handled on a case-by-case basis.
Who's the best person to contact? What's the contact information?
You.
Well, they can go to our website and then contact us through the website. And it'll be myself, Dwayne, or someone else that's associated with opengovernmentok.com. Yes?
What did the petition number of days, what did it used to be? Why did they,
On the 90-day challenge?
what's the difference between what it used to be like?
Before they passed this law in 2024, again, highly expected to be unconstitutional. But see, they pass these kind of laws, and then it forces you, those that are having to comply with it, to then expend the money expense to hire an attorney to go challenge it in the courts, and the time expense. So, we've got, your question was again what?
How long did you use it?
Before they added those two 90-day challenges on either end of this, it used to be 20 days at the end after you gathered the signatures and turned them into the Secretary of State. Then there was a 20-day, so to speak, challenge period in which people could challenge the signatures or things like that.
You could literally take years.
They added
Like getting a petition.
They added 6 months onto this. So, when you do something like this, you want it to be on the general election. Everybody does. And so on most questions. And so what they've done is they've pushed it so far back, we have to start now to go through the normal cycle so that it'll be ready next year for people to have a chance to vote on it. So this is not all by accident. It's not just because somebody had an idea that we need to make this better. It's because they're trying to make it more difficult. Any other questions? Dwayne, you have anything else to say?
What's the address for that website?
opengovernmentok.com. Thank you for your attendance today. Appreciate it very much.